There's another thing that I was asked to talk about tonight as well, which is called author rank. Now, author rank is slightly different. Authorship is definitely here, it exists. Search engines have talked about it. Stuart will come up and tell you how you can claim authorship of the content that you've written and therefore get your lovely face and stuff like that. But what happens when multiple people write about the same topic? How does Google start to understand the difference between writers? How does it say one writer's better than another? And recently, Eric Schmidt, who's one of the founders at Google, he said this, I won't read it out, but basically what he's saying is that certain authors will be weighted so that their content on a particular topic appears higher than other content because they're considered by the search engine to be experts. Now this has given rise to the SEO community basically losing its shit about authorship. People are going, well, what does that mean? Because when the founder of Google says something, you know it's going to happen. Like, he doesn't just come out and say stuff that everyone else in the background is not thinking about. And this concept of author rank has been born. And it exists because when Google used to look at content, it developed something called PageRank, which was a rough score of how good the page was. And now SEOs postulate that they're going to follow the same formula for people who create content like you. They're going to give you each a score in regards to how good you are at creating content to do with your niche. And that is fundamentally what lies behind the term author rank. It's not been confirmed, it doesn't officially exist, but it's kind of what people think is going to happen. The thing that you don't need to worry about is, oh my god, what are the ins and outs of author rank? Mainly because it doesn't officially exist, and B, because if it does follow a model like PageRank, the rules behind it will just be normal, good marketing. Build relationships with people who do the same thing that you do, share the stuff that you do to a wider audience, don't just like write it and then hide it somewhere. And make sure that you're nice, essentially, and that you help other people share their stuff that's similar. There's some problems with it as a system. I mean, essentially it could just become a popularity contest, so how do search engines get around that? But so author rank is coming, it will be here soon. And to tell you more about how you can actually go about claiming authorship and how you can build some sort of author rank, I'm going to hand over to Stu, and he'll take you through the rest of the talk.
Hopefully Rich has given you a bit of a background as to what both authorship and author rank are. What I'll be talking about more now is the actual practicalities, so how can I claim authorship and how can I start to prepare for author rank coming. So if you do a Google search of how do I claim my authorship, chances are you're going to be met with something horrible like this, which is in reality a bit more complex than it necessarily needs to be. Potentially could make you buy your laptop, I don't know. When in reality, all it is a reciprocal relationship between your Google Plus profile and the web pages on which you publish your content. So what you need to do is link from your Google Plus profile to the web pages and vice versa. So we've got a working example here. It's a 3-step process. There are different ways to claim authorship, but this is probably one of the most straightforward and easy ways to follow. The first step is to link from pages where you've written an article or where you're publishing content to your Google Plus profile. And what you actually need to do is add a line of code. Don't be put off by the fact that it is code. It's simply a copy and paste. You can easily find it online. And what this code is actually saying is there's a rel equals author tag within this code, and what that is doing is telling search engines that there's a relationship between this web page and this person's Google Plus profile. So you are the author of this material. The second step is to go to your Google Plus profile, if you have one. Don't know how many of you do, but it's not easy to do. And link back to your web page. And finally, once you've done this step, there's a really easy Google testing tool. You can go in there, enter your web page, and it will tell you have you implemented it correctly, and it will also show you, hopefully, the little photo that you've chosen and how you will appear in the searches. So now that you understand a bit about how to claim authorship, the next subject is how can you start to build your author rank. As Rich touched on briefly, author rank is not something that we can definitely say these are the exact factors that contribute towards it, because with any new Google product they're always quite secretive about this. But what we can do is research and look at the factors that seem to be contributing towards authors appearing highly in searches. So here we've got a whole range of factors that could potentially work towards building good author rank. But I think the important thing here is to not get too scared or bogged down by all these tech phrases, the different types of shares in Google Plus and so forth, because all of these factors are essentially a byproduct of what is of traditional PR and traditional content producing best practices. So if you engage with the right people, if you engage with people that are relevant to the content you're producing, if you integrate yourself within relevant communities, then all of these things are going to follow. So you're going to get more plus ones, you're going to get more shares on Google Plus, you're going to get more tweets, Facebooks, etc. So the next stage is to look at how you as content producers can prepare for author rank coming. One of the most important steps is to go back and look at content you've produced historically, because although author rank is a brand new feature, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should only be claiming authorship for new content. You should be going back and looking at the great content you've produced throughout the years, throughout the noughties, maybe even before that, and saying, I wrote this content, and that's obviously going to have a positive effect on your author rank when it does roll out. The second bit of advice is to use Google+. I don't work for Google, so there's no hidden agenda here, but using Google+ will potentially keep you in good stead for when author rank becomes more important. So, for example, there is a community section on Google+, where you could go and find relevant people who are going to be talking on your subject area. There is circles, where you can categorize people into the subjects that they write content about. So all of this kind of stuff boils down to the fact that author rank is going to be assigning authority for you for a specific subject. Again, on that theme, hone in on topics that you're passionate about. So don't write 100 different articles about 100 different subjects. What you want to do is write stuff that you're a specialist on, write stuff that you can prove that you're knowledgeable about. And what this will do is it will make it easier for Google to understand the exact subjects that you're an expert on. So the example here, you type in baking tips, and Dan Leppard at Guardian has obviously already taken advantage of this Google authorship. He's getting this exposed visibility, not just for the Guardian as a brand, but also for himself as a personal author. And the last bit of advice for this section, it's basically a bit of a warning. Keep calm, don't try and manipulate Google authorship, because what tends to happen in the SEO community with the way that Google algorithms work is that people will try and manipulate it either by creating a large volume of blogs or links, etc. Whereas with authorship, as Rich touched on earlier, it should be all about building relationships, making sure that the content is adding value to the community, and basically putting your content into communities that are relevant to the subject that you're expert on. Okay, I'll hand you over to Rich again.